It's all about curating the experience and producing a beer that is good in and of itself.
Ethos from early on was European style, traditional, kind of paying homage to the beers that we love to drink, and that's what we wanted to brew, and that's what we continue to do.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brew Roots, where we tell the stories behind your favorite beer. This is not Sound Guy Ryan. This is, I guess, Sound Guy Matt this week, because I'm running sound this week. Joined with me, as always, is Erica. What's up?
What's up? Yeah.
We are recording at a secret location.
Secret location. Super secret. So top secret. No Ryan again?
No jazz.
No jazz this time either.
I know.
We're like really throwing it back to like the before times.
Yeah. Which, like, our listeners are like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And really, it's just Ryan had something going on, and then Jazz had something going on.
Yeah, and that's just how it ended up being.
And we were like, we need to power through for our listeners.
Exactly. We're here for you, Booze.
That's right. We're here for you, Booze. But yeah, we have an awesome episode lined up for you this week. You've heard us probably talk about this brewery a ton of times. But before we reveal who that is, big shout out to Rob.
Yeah.
Earth Week.
Earth Week. It's been great.
Yeah.
It's a great episode. Learned a lot.
This episode is going to get released on Friday. But that means tomorrow I am going to be at 7th Wave.
Dun, dun, dun.
Celebrating Earth Day.
Yeah.
And Earth Week, really. And I'm going to be promoting it by doing yoga.
Right.
For the first time in months.
Which is awesome.
Not really. I've been stretching and doing stuff. But conveniently, I broke my butt this weekend.
That is convenient.
Yeah, which isn't even a joke. I actually broke my butt. Roller
so
skating.
yoga might be helpful for you, then?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Roller skating, I either bruised or broke my tailbone. I'm going with broken because it sucks right now.
So 10 out of 10, don't recommend breaking your tailbone.
Definitely do not break your tailbone.
You should roller skate, rollerblade. That's cool. But
you
no
should
breaking
definitely
of
do
the
that.
tailbone.
Yes, but don't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an awesome episode. Thank you for everyone who shared. I saw a couple breweries share it, and especially a lot of just our listeners reshare it. They got a lot out of the episode, and
Definitely.
it was good. It was fun.
Yeah.
I definitely did not stick to Rob's pledge for us.
Honestly, I kind of forgot what
I
week
tried
it was.
so hard. I tried so hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just didn't happen.
But it's something that, will always be in the back of my head just to think about, try to get that growler, try to drink at breweries with glass cups and whatever else you can do.
Yeah,
so.
I'm going to try to bring my reusable remnant cup this weekend, see if they'll take that.
Drink it, refill it.
As we drink out of our Essex County Brewing can and my Jack's Abbey can right now.
Yeah.
What are we drinking?
Well, I am having the Symposium IPA,
Nice.
or Session IPA.
That's
I
our
should
session,
say.
yeah.
It's great, really strong, grapefruity flavor, citrusy, super sessionable. It's enjoyable.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was super excited about this one. This is part of Jack's Abbey, and I'm gonna butcher this, but they're trying to do like a lagers of the world. So this is their Brazilian
they're like doing
style.
collabs with breweries all over the world or something like that. So it's pretty cool. That's their first one, I believe.
Yep. It's pretty good.
Nice.
This one is inspired by their conversations with AVOS, a voice. And if I butchered that name, Avos. I'm so sorry, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. Malt beverage brewed with corn. Definitely can taste that corn.
Yeah.
Corniness.
Influence.
Yeah, the influence. Passion fruit, guava, and pineapple.
Nice.
I don't really actually know what passion fruit tastes like. Someone could put passion fruit in front of me and be like, "Oh, it's passion fruit." Oh yeah, that's what it tastes like.
It's almost like a buzzword. I don't know that many people know what passion fruit tastes
But
like.
definitely guava and pineapple.
Cool. Nice.
Jack's Abbey doing great things again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But other than that,
Awesome.
I've been not drinking a ton
Yeah.
because you're not supposed to mix Advil with drinking.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so I haven't been
Good
doing
on you
that.
for not doing that.
But Erica, who do we have on this week?
Who do we have on this week? Well, like you kind of teased, it's one of our faves. We mention them all the time.
And it's a return to an old episode.
Yeah, return guest.
Yeah.
So we have Brewery Silvaticus.
That's right. We talked with Dylan
Indeed.
and Jay.
Yes.
And I love this episode because I think I got vaccinated.
Yeah,
during
so
this
you were
episode.
like solid.
I was really sick. No, I wasn't really sick, but I drank a lot.
You weren't all there, and then we were adding the beer, and it was a great time.
Yeah, as
We
soon
had
as
fun.
the liquor hit my lips, I was like, I'm here. I'm here. I'm ready for it.
ready for it.
But yeah, they're a great crew over there at Silvaticus.
Yeah, and it was fun kind of going back and talking to them again.
Yeah.
And because it's been, 2 years?
2 years, and so
Since
much
our first
has
interview,
changed.
and a ton has changed, but a ton has also stayed the same. So it was just really cool just to talk to them about all that. And yeah, just a really great episode.
Yeah, and just to hear their passion of making styles of beer that they are passionate about, and not brewing
Yeah.
beers that like are for the hype, you know?
Right. They are really doing what they're passionate about, and you can really hear that and feel that from the episode for
Yeah.
sure.
Erica, you were featured on a Twitch stream this week.
I was, which is pretty fun. Atomic Ellie, she does a few different things. It's like a new thing she's doing. She's doing like Women in Beer on Wednesdays or whatever on her Twitch account. I think you could probably find it.
And we were gonna,
I'll link it in the doobly-doo.
we promoted on our social media, so if you had the chance to see it, awesome. But she's going to be doing those weekly?
She is, yeah, which is pretty cool. I think she's kind of interviewing people like all over the States, potentially the world. I don't really know for sure.
it.
So, tune in on Wednesdays and see what she's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love when that kind of stuff comes out. This kind of came to be just like super
Yeah.
last minute for you. So
Super random. The other week we were just kind of chit-chatting about it. I'm like, yeah, sure, what the hell? I'll do
Good.
it. So,
yeah,
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
that's super important. We were also on the Strike Mash Boil.
Which was awesome.
That was so much fun.
Yes. it
I
was
found out
super
that I
cool.
work at the same place Phil works at.
Surprise.
Yeah. We're just so cool.
Yeah. And it was cool just to focus on a style like that they mentioned that's just not highlighted much anymore.
Yes.
Um,
But it inspired
so-
us. I think we want to brew a Hefeweizen,
yeah,
which,
I'm down.
yeah, I give a lot of praise to the beers that they put out. I know we were pretty harsh on their scoring, but
But to be like a really good BJCP judge, I think you kind of have to be.
which means
I'm too nice.
I should be a
You should.
Ryan should be. We should take. I wish Ryan was there to see.
We
what
gotta
the
do another
scores
episode with
were.
them
Yeah.
with Ryan and see
But if you haven't gotten a chance to listen to that episode, that's also going to be in the doobly doo below.
all the doobly doos.
Because I want everyone to take a listen to it.
Yeah.
Because as I put on my personal Instagram, I was like, I pretend to know about Hefeweizens.
Yeah, it was fun to learn and go along with
we
it.
used
for
words
sure.
like mouthfeel.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was great. And banana and clove.
I think we even threw in retronasal.
Retro, we did
We
to
did,
harken
yeah.
back to our homies over at Firestone Walker.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was cool.
So, Erica, we did pretty good on this intro.
I think this was a great intro.
We did this completely off the cuff. We didn't write anything down.
Nope.
And it's been the best one
Ever.
ever. All right, so enjoy this episode with Brewery Silvaticus.
Yeah.
If you aren't doing anything this weekend, there's a lot of breweries out there that are celebrating Earth Week, so make sure you make your way out there. I know our friends at Craft Roots are doing some stuff.
Seventh Wave is doing
Seventh
some
Wave, you can
stuff.
come meet a celebrity,
Yeah.
aka me. I'll
Yeah.
be there doing yoga. I'll sign anything you want.
Yeah.
Anything.
Anything.
If you got a dog leash, I'll sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even your face.
I won't sign your face
Oh, okay.
because I don't want your mom or dad to be disappointed with you. Well,
Until next
next
time.
week, yeah. Maybe Sound Guy Ryan will be back
You
next
never know.
week. I'm not holding my breath.
Neither am I.
Well, cheers.
We are in a cellar right now,
A beer cellar.
a beer cellar, which we never do interviews in beer cellars.
This, I think, is the first, actually.
Which
Yeah.
I would actually prefer to do all of our interviews in beer cellars.
Yeah, it gets the vibe flowing, really. Just feels right.
And actually, I would prefer to do all our interviews at this specific brewery because it's one of the closest ones to my houses.
Yes.
Yeah, so
It's also probably one of the better ones.
one of my favorites for
The
sure.
best.
Yeah, the best. Oh,
It's
wow.
Ryan.
You
It's
said that.
Ryan's favorite.
It's
That's
my
for
favorite.
sure.
Ryan's
I'm here
one of
twice
my
a week.
favorites.
What do you know?
Yeah, it's like it's your favorite. You always talk about Silvaticus.
Yeah, because I'm always here.
Spoiler alert, that's where we're at, where it's Silvaticus. And if you're a devout Brew Roots listener, you would know that we've already interviewed Silvaticus.
But that was like
3 years ago.
Yeah.
I listened to that episode. It was only me editing it, so I'm sorry, listeners. This is going to be a way better quality episode because we have Sound Guy Ryan and Erica, and there's a lot of similarities with what you're doing. I mean,
Not a whole lot has changed,
not a whole lot has changed, but I mean,
but things have changed.
things have changed, and it's pretty interesting. And we're joined here with Dylan and Jay. What's up?
Hey, what's going on?
Not too much.
Yeah, thank you for doing this today. It's getting nice out, so you guys are getting ready for busy season. Hopefully,
Patio season.
Knock on wood, right?
Totally. Yeah, we're we're fortunate again this year to have the street side seating.
Nice.
The town of Amesbury has been awesome with hooking up all the restaurants in town with some extra seating so we can keep everybody safe and distanced. And we can maybe have a nice, like you say, beer garden season. It's coming. The weather's coming.
It is. Yeah.
Could feel it. This weekend's supposed to be beautiful.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually come to your beer garden when it wasn't less than beautiful and it was still fun. So
Yeah.
you guys accommodate great and the beer keeps me warm. So that's
Excellent. That's good to hear.
yeah. It's always interesting when we do return episodes to see where things aligned with the last time 3 years ago. But to refresh our listeners or who haven't listened to that 3-year episode, can you introduce yourselves in your role here at the brewery and your first memory of beer?
All right. So my name is Jay Bullen. I am the owner, founder, and head of brew house operations, I guess you would call it, here at Brewery Silvaticus in Amesbury, Massachusetts. What was the other question?
First memory of beer.
First memory of beer. I would say, besides light lagers, and it's funny because I listened to the last podcast recently also, and it still rings true. It was my uncle was a home brewer, used to do brew on premise stuff, and I kind of remember drinking out of those brown labelless bottles
Nice.
in my younger days, and that was kind of my first light bulb that said, "Hey, you can make your own beer,"
What?
and here we are.
Here we are.
Nice.
My name's Dylan Johnson. I'm a brewer here at Brewery Silvaticus, and my first memory of beer is probably stealing one of my dad's Coronas out of the fridge and saying, "I don't want anything to do with this," and I kind of
'cause
put it back on the shelf.
That's
for a
because you
while.
didn't have the lime. That's probably
It's true.
why.
It's true. And then actually, I never really drank much through college or anything. And then coming of age, 21, I kind of got back into the craft thing. I think the first beer I bought legally was a 12-pack of Blue Moon.
Solid. It's a great entry beer.
Yeah,
And great
I
beer
think
in
it's the last
general.
time I bought it as well. No
Yeah,
offense.
that's all right. That beer's weird. I don't know.
You're weird.
So obviously, if you listen back to our episode, it was you and Mark that had it, and now it's you as the main owner.
Correct. And Michelle, my wife.
Michelle, your wife, yeah, who's awesome. Every time that I get to talk with Michelle, it's like, yeah, and Ryan, you love Michelle.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's all right.
Yeah.
At best. She's all right at best. Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
When we were interviewing Dylan, you weren't here. When did you make your entry into Brewery Silvaticus?
Coming up on about 2.5 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just missed you.
Yeah, just missed.
fuck?
Funny enough, I used to live right over there. Actually, you can see the house. I'm pointing at it right now.
yes.
That's why I'm off mic. But yeah, so I moved to Amesbury. My wife and I both were working in an adjacent city, Newburyport, and we started looking for apartments there, and very quickly said that's not going to happen. Yeah.
Very expensive for people who don't know. Yeah.
Exactly. So we found a nice little place here in Amesbury and just fell in love with the town instantly. And of course, being within walking distance from a brewery, I made my way over here fairly frequently and came to find that I really liked what they were doing here. And as a brewer at the time, I sort of said, I would be remiss if I didn't, throw my hat in the ring to say, I'm interested in what you guys are doing here. And if you ever have any need, give me a call. And that's how it shook out. So
Where'd you work previously?
I worked at a regional North Shore brewery. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay, that's fine.
Nice, nice.
And so Dylan went that day when he came and he dropped off his resume, and it was very early on. And we had probably only been open for a couple weeks. And we weren't paying ourselves, let alone in a position to pay somebody else. But I did tell Dylan when he gave me that, and I said, well, look, I'm going to hold on to this, and when we're ready, you'll be the first one to call. And so it sat on my desk literally for a year and a half.
Oh, no.
Which I always refer to we're not hiring now, but when we are, we'll give you a call as sort of it's not you, it's me of job searching. But he actually held true to his word, and here we are 2.5 years later. I think the first time we sat down and talked, we didn't even go over like nuts and bolts. We just spent like an hour and a half just talking about beer philosophy for the most part, and just not in any specific way, but sort of looking back, it was sort of like, what about this business makes it worth spending so much of your time on? And we found that we had a lot in common in terms of ethics and what we thought was important in business and what we thought was important in beer. And I think we had a couple more meetings after that, and it clicked pretty rapidly.
Very cool. So what got you into beer in the first place?
I was working at a liquor store, sort of shiftless, post-college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I became the de facto beer guy because I was the youngest person there. So I had an interest in craft beer.
Cool guy.
Yeah, exactly,
cool. He's
exactly. Yeah, the hip guy. And I got a little following of customers who I called them my new and weirds because every time they'd come in, they'd ask me what I had that was new and weird. And I learned there that if I could tell someone a story about a beer, I could sell them that beer.
Yeah.
And so initially I approached the industry. I wanted to go into sales. So my then girlfriend, now wife, was working at another brewery in the area as a bartender, and so I approached the owners there and said, how do you get into this? I'd like to be on, sell this beer.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we don't have a sales team, but we need a cellarman yesterday. So you want to do a couple shifts, see how you like it. And I started there, started scrubbing floors and flipping kegs, and within a few months, kind of twisted their arm into teaching me how to brew, and it's been going, onwards and upwards from there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Did you want to brew the style of beer that Brewery Silvaticus is brewing? I mean, you don't have hazy IPAs here. It's like in an industry that's dominated by.
Yeah, Jay's holding it. We're both drinking our German pilsners right now.
Yeah.
But in an industry where the New England style IPA is
Dominant.
dominant.
Yeah.
Being newlywed and making that jump from a sales position in a brewery that I'm assuming probably brewed New England style IPAs.
Oh no, I was not in sales. That's what I wanted to do.
No. But
Oh,
I
see
mean,
what you're
but saying like
coming to it from
that angle. Was your brewing philosophy that you recalled earlier? You wanted to get into that German style or the European style of brewing.
Well, when I came of age, like in working, selling beer and brewing beer, it was sort of the days of the how much hops can you handle 100 IBU crusher. And I was definitely a hophead to start, but I found that especially within the local market, the product was just so variable. Even the same brand from the same breweries, time to time would not be the same. And of course, it's not great sometimes to drink a beer that ruins your palate after one. You know what I mean? I like to be able to have 2, 3, 4 beers and sort of, enjoy it, savor it every single sip, which I find is not often, or I shouldn't say not often, but not always the case with New England IPAs. There are some that I enjoy for certain. I wouldn't be opposed to even brewing one, but it's just not the thing that excites me about drinking beer.
Yeah.
It's not what I find interesting.
Yeah. Jay, I'm curious, what excites you about beer?
Well, kind of the room that we're sitting in right now. That's one of the directions. Silvaticus being the literal meaning, translation is of the wood or from the wood. One of our plans early on was to always have an oak cellar and really kind of explore the realm of what flavors and what we could do with using barrels and foeders and, spruce tips and smoked beer and all those things. So this is kind of an extension of that, and it hasn't moved as quickly as we would have liked early on, but because we're limited on some space requirements and stuff like that, and but that's something that we're really starting to work on. So we're really starting to push out some new beers coming out of the barrels here, coming out of the cellar, finding new ways to incorporate it and using that going forward to kind of sit next to our traditional style lagers as a little bit of a juxtaposition, still in the traditional realm, but gives us a little bit more play, a little bit more leeway to try some different things.
So to your credit, when we interview breweries across the state, your brewery comes out probably 9 times out of 10 out of the Brewers Month, which is a really cool thing, and it's right in our backyard. Why is that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
We want to know too. I mean, I agree. It's just,
it's funny because we're actually hiring for another position in the brew house.
Yep.
And a couple of the candidates have said, "Well, I've never heard of your brewery before." So
Oh,
I
jeez.
usually hear the opposite. I usually hear, "Oh, how come we never heard of you guys?"
Yeah.
And my thought is always, well, it's because we don't distribute.
Yeah.
We're still
Right.
pretty much tap room only, and where we're located, we're kind of in this little nook up on the North Shore here. Not many people make their way here or make their way off of 95 or 495 into Amesbury.
it's kind of if you know, you know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys are known for your pilsners, your lagers, your European
Yeah.
style beers. That's the
Those easy drinking brews.
the shift beers. You know,
Yeah,
that the brewers
exactly.
love.
Well, maybe it's because we stand out a little bit more because, like you were saying, everybody's doing the New England hazy thing,
Yeah.
and it's just not what we do. It's what we haven't done from the beginning. Our whole ethos from early on was European style, traditional, kind of paying homage to the beers that we love to drink, and that's what we wanted to brew, and that's what we continue to do.
Oblivion is the beer that I hear about from you guys all the time. One of my favorite beers. I prefer it on nitro. But I mean, is that your flagship beer? Is that the beer that people know you by? Do you enjoy that being the beer that people might know you by?
I mean, I don't know if it would be a flagship, but I agree with you. That's one of those beers where a lot of times people say, "Oh, I can't wait for Oblivion," and there was a while where Oblivion would kind of come and go, you know. So I think especially early on, like we'd have a batch on, and then it may not be back for 4 or 5 months. So I think it was the wait.
Yeah,
you know,
anticipation.
Exactly. And now as it's more and more, it's one of our staples. Like we've Dylan and I fight now on the schedule to make sure we keep it on.
Yeah,
and especially since we started canning, it's been a big seller for the cans. So we're trying to keep it in constant rotation. And you know, I'm proud of that beer. It's simple, it's easy, but it's delicious. And we're still kind of working batch to batch to improve it where we can and to make it better.
Where are you improving it? Like, what are you working on?
A lot of our stuff is very kind of fine tuning. So because we're more traditional and our focus is on the ingredients, so the malt and the hops and a beer like that, it's really kind of in the malt. So kind of fine tuning the base malt, adjusting which specialty malts we're using, it's just and doing it incrementally batch to batch, because if you go ahead and change 3 different things in a recipe, it's
You don't
basically
know
a
what's
different
good.
beer.
Yeah, right.
It's really hard to say, oh, well, this is why this is better and this is why this is a little different. So it's one of those things where the beauty of being open now for coming up on 4 years is we've worked through, you know, a number of iterations of all these different beers. And each time it's always about like, okay, we sit down, we crack one and we go, okay, well, where are we at with this beer? Like, where do we want it to be? Were we happy with the last batch? Was there something we didn't like? What can be better? That's always the constant question for us.
yeah.
So then are you doing kind of constant tastings and trying to figure out, you know, what's good, what's bad?
UQC.
Yeah, QC. That was the
Totally.
word I'm looking for.
Yeah, always like we're always constantly kind of sitting down and going through the beers and just seeing what we like, what we don't like, and that's the thing. Now that Dylan's been here for 2.5 years, it's been great as we've developed like this kind of language between each other, so we can kind of talk back and forth very easily and freely about what flavor profiles are here, what we like, what we don't like. It's kind of it makes it easy for us to tweak things now. Where early on we kind of worked hard to kind of build that up, and you know, one of the beers like the quintessential that we're drinking right now, that's the first beer that Dylan and I really were able to work together on.
Cool.
As far as developing a beer, it was probably about 2 years ago, maybe. It was pretty soon after he started working here in January of was it 2019?
God, I don't know. It feels like it's been forever
2000
because of the plague.
I think
Right.
it was 2008.
But yeah,
the plague.
yeah.
And you know, so we came across, and it was really about adding a new beer into the repertoire, because we had our Sovereign Pilsner, which was one of our most popular beers, and still is, even though it's kind of fallen out of rotation a little bit for a variety of reasons. But we were looking to add another. It sounds crazy. We were looking to add a second Pilsner style beer to our menu.
That's not crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. We second that.
And it was the first conversation was actually, why did we want to do another Pilsner, or do we want to do kind of like a Helles? Like we're looking for another light option that wasn't Sovereign, and kind of fell in between Sovereign, which is more of a Czech style Pilsner, and Why Not, which is our American light lager. So something that falls within that realm, which a lot of people might think is kind of splitting hairs, because, you know, some people may not be able to differentiate too much between the two. But for us, it was about kind of finding something that fell in the middle, that kind of hit a note, and it ended up being us sitting down, grabbing a bunch of samples of different beers, both Helles and Pilsner, opening them up, tasting through them, going through them again, and kind of saying what we like and what we don't like about the profile and where we wanted it to be, and we kind of landed on German style Pilsner.
Cool.
And that's where this beer kind of started.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but
No, just that. Well, yes, just that. I mean, it is splitting hairs. I think, but also, I mean, I'm happy with the product. You know what I mean? I think even the other day, I just pulled one off the tap, and you know, not to sound full of it or anything, but
You can brag, it's fine.
I was like, damn, I love this beer. I love
Yeah.
this beer. I never get tired of it. You know what I mean? There's a reason we call it quintessential. It's the quintessential shift beer. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if someone, I used to call it my safety blanket, because the bartenders would come to me and say, would you like another beer? And I'd be like, I don't know, quintessential.
Yes.
And yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's so familiar at this point, and it's so nice to be able to taste through, like Jay alluded to, the fact that every single batch is different. So even though this is, you know, to the customer coming off the street may not be able to tell the difference. I mean, there's intricacies within every single batch, and it's really, really worthwhile, I think, to drill down into that and say, you know, what did we like about this batch? We're trying to keep more and more of an extensive QC fridge, where we can go back and say, what do we like about, you know, X? What did we dislike? How can we achieve, you know, more of the quality we like? How do we, you know, sort of negate the qualities we don't like? And I mean, it's easy for me to say the freshest beer in front of me is my favorite beer, but this might be my favorite quintessential to this point. You know what I mean? It's that always challenging ourselves to improve it, make it better than the last batch, make it more of something we're proud to show to people and say, hey, this beer might be boring to, you know, the average consumer, but to me, it's super exciting.
Yeah. Cool. So before we get into the other style of beer that you guys are brewing right now, we just have to go to a quick word from our sponsors. So take it away, Sound Guy Ryan.
Did you know that your favorite Massachusetts breweries use hops from a local family-owned hop farm right here in Massachusetts?
Our friends over at 4 Star Farms are there for you whether you're a commercial brewery or a small batch home brewer.
Make sure to head over to their website today and get your hands on some of the best and freshest hops available locally. Cheers.
At our local homebrew shop, Beer and Wine Hobby, you can get everything you need to make beer, wine, cider, cheese, and more. Not sure where to start? They have knowledgeable staff there to help. Beer and Wine Hobby is family-owned and located in Danvers, Massachusetts. Visit their website, beer-wine.com, and use our promo code BREWROOTS for 10% off your online order today.
Shirts on Tap is the box subscription service where you can get some of the dopest brewery t-shirts out there. I'm talking breweries from Dallas, San Diego, and even our home area of New England. And you might ask, how do I get my hands on some? To get your first box for $5, click the link below in our description, or head on over to our website, breweroots.com. Remember, drink better beer, wear better shirts.
So we're still in the basement. JK, we're in the cellar.
Yes.
I said it on purpose because we're going to actually talk about
So funny.
some of those beers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we cracked out a Belgian style ale, or Saison style, right?
Le Péché.
What I mean,
well, it's kind of a merge of a couple different things. You know?
Yeah.
So it started out, the base beer was a Saison.
yep.
It was fermented in stainless, and it was a beer that we then moved down to barrels after we had blended in some peaches that we had gotten from Cider Hill Farm, which is here in Amesbury. And after we blended that in, we moved them down to the barrels, and the beer sat in the barrels for about a year.
What type of barrels?
They were white wine barrels.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of, I believe, Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc.
I believe so. I know it's Sauvignon Blanc for sure. I'm pretty sure Chardonnay as well.
It was a couple second-use barrels that we had done. Bacchanalia, which is our barrel fermented.
Yep.
Saison, which we actually have a batch that we just moved out of the cellar here last week and is up in the
Nice.
tank. So that'll be coming up soon. So they were second-use barrels from that, and the beer aged in the barrels for about a year, along with some Brett C. Clauseni, and that kind of gives it that little bit of little fruity funk
Yeah.
to it, along with the fruit being in there, and there were some whole parts of that fruit. Some of it we did puree because the peaches that year were not ideal,
Yeah.
but it still really kind of worked out well. And it was the first time we were really using like whole fruit for a beer. And
What made you choose peaches? I've had so many peach beers because like peach is my favorite fruit.
It's really difficult flavor.
Yeah.
I think.
it was real simple. They were in season.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
Readily available.
Cool.
Yeah, we were looking to kind of do something with Cider Hill and what they had, and it was either peaches or blueberries. And
Both are kind of like hard.
yeah, I mean, peaches to me was a more of a no-brainer than the blueberries. The blueberries can be kind of difficult to work with.
Definitely.
Not a lot of flavor for the
No.
volume you need, right?
If you look at a lot of blueberry beers, you'll see that there's like color or other things added to them.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Not that it can't be done, but for one of our first kind of full fruit beers, the peaches were more of a to kind of make it a little easier for us.
Plus, it lends itself really well to the kind of barrel aging you're doing. I think blueberries on that, sure, could work, but not maybe as well.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So the peaches, and because they were in season, we were able to get them picked them up at Cider Hill, and the beer just kind of worked out really well for us. I don't know what your thoughts are on this beer, because it's been a while since we've tasted it together. I can't remember the last time we cracked a bottle.
Yeah, it's been a bit, but my first thought is that this is one of the few beers where I can just take whiffs of it and not even take a sip. It's rare that I don't take a big whiff of a beer and then taking a big sip right after. But I've just sort of been getting my nose up in this guy. But yeah, I mean, the thing that comes out to me is that it's very restrained for what it is. You know what I mean? It's not bopping you over the head with the peach.
Yeah.
It's got
Doesn't sound like a sour
exactly
peach, it's
which is one of the challenges I think with the blueberries, that it adds so much acidity to the beer, whereas this is nice and restrained. You get the nice peach aroma, you get that like oakiness that comes from the white wine barrels, you get that little bit of vinous character from the wine itself, and it's one of those beers where it is definitely not the same beer from first pour to last pour. As it warms up, especially, you get a little bit more character out of it. That breadth that's in there kind of unfolds, adds a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of just a hint of funk. It's not a sour in the traditional sense, but it definitely gets that mixed culture sort of feel to it. Even the Brett C, which is one of the cleaner strains that we found, still gives just a little bit of that. It gives you enough that you want to keep drinking it and keep smelling it, in my personal case right now.
Yeah. So this has been in bottle this for what, 3 months now, 4 months?
Longer than that. It's been in the bottle probably since September.
It was right before our anniversary party, correct?
So probably since the end of August.
Wow.
And
almost 8 months.
It's aged really well.
We sat on them for a little while before we released them. I think we released it in November. I think it was right around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So we let it kind of condition in the bottle a little bit more, let that Brett develop a little bit more. And then we released him when we were happy with him right around, it was right around Thanksgiving. So this is a beer, though, it'll hold up well in the bottle.
Yeah.
It'll kind of change. It'll evolve. I'm really digging the way it's tasting right now. It's
for sure
pretty good. It's kind of, it has all it hits all the notes, but it's really well balanced, which is kind of a tenet of all of our beers. I feel like, or that's what we strive for, at least.
Yeah.
To kind of have all the things kind of playing well together, and not one specific kind of characteristic sticking out too far, kind of getting in the way of other things. It just really works well. So Dylan was saying, like, the way the peach works, it's kind of subtle, but it's there. The Brett's kind of subtle, but it's there. The acidity, it's very well attenuated, which most of our beers are. So that's it. It all kind of plays really well together.
Yeah, it's really well balanced, like you were saying. Like, nothing's
Clean.
overpowering, super clean. You could have a second glass of this if you wanted.
Nothing's floating around in the glass.
And we actually started doing we actually started doing bottle pours in the tap room with it,
cool.
just as a kind of a once we moved back inside, we moved back to doing glassware.
Yeah.
With everything going on, we decided to move back to bottle pours to kind of up that experience a little bit more.
Definitely.
And have it unique. And we're working on some new stuff. All the barrels that are sitting around us will make their way hopefully in the next in the next couple months into bottles.
Nice. barrel aging, it's, in my opinion, it's kind of such a scary thing. I think there's such an unknown. I guess you control as much as you can, but I feel like in my mind, you just don't know what's going to happen. How do you come up with a beer that's just this perfect barrel aging?
Well, the whole beer wasn't perfect. There was one whole barrel that we dumped down the drain.
Yeah.
So it was a batch that had basically four of these barrels. One of them was
Not
just
good.
Not up to snuff. No.
was not up to snuff. It didn't play well with the other ones, so we decided instead of trying to blend it in to make more beer, that wasn't the way we were going to do it. So
Good for you. Yeah.
it's and with barrel aging, it really does come down to blending and having these different components. And as we kind of build the library down here of different beers, it'll give us more options to kind of blend things together. So then it really gives you more just different pieces that you can then we can look at and we can taste and we can use different portions of each. And that's really where it kind of delves into the wine world of blending. That's the thing that excites me when we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Definitely. So then the barrel you had to dump, was that just something funky got in there and just...
We just thought we tasted. So what we'll do is we'll taste every individual barrel, evaluate it, because there's always the possibility we could just release a single barrel if we're like, this is outstanding. What I mean, this, it would make sense. We want to present it to the world as this.
Yeah.
And we thought that it was one of those things where if we blended that fourth barrel that we weren't happy with into the other three, it would bring down the other three.
Compromise the others.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we felt that, it in and of itself wasn't worth releasing on its own. So we figured, let's take the three that we're happy with. This is the best possible product we can present to the world. And we chalk it up to loss. I mean, it is what it is. To echo back what Jay was saying earlier about being open for as long as we have now, we're sort of building up a base of knowledge where what we try to do is basically set ourselves up for success as best as possible. Like what you said about how barrel aging can be scary. Absolutely it can. You know what I mean? There are things that we've done. We've done some experimental stuff that didn't work out, like this Pomerius barrel that we ended up dumping. We did an experimental barrel that we thought was great, a home run. It was we barrel aged an Oktoberfest in a white wine barrel with Britannomyces.
Cool.
And that is one of my favorite beers that we've done to this point. It was one of those things where we were like, we have, a fair amount of Oktoberfest on hand. We have this barrel, we have this yeast.
Why not?
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah,
and like we said, we have to be willing to say, this is the price of building up our base of knowledge. If this is not good, we're just going to have to dump it. But the factors that led to us making that decision, we're like, it's worth it to weigh it against, the loss and say, it's the price of learning, which I think we take super seriously to learn as much as we can from everything we do.
Is it easier to do that because you don't have distribution demands? Sorry to ask the hard question.
Possibly. I don't know if we had the capacity to say we were able to brew twice as much beer as we had the capacity for, so we were distributing more beer. I don't know if that would necessarily change for us the way we attack making beers, the way we kind of approach it, but it definitely comes into play on certain things. I mean, the biggest thing for me is the reason why I love it, and my new thing now is just like, it's kind of destination over distribution. People come in here. We have total control over the beers.
It's not sitting outside a cooler.
So I know, like, all these bottles are resting in the cellar here at a specific temperature. All the beer is kept cold in the cooler. All of those things we can. Our bartenders are knowledgeable. They know our beer. Absolutely. So that makes it easier to.
I'm sorry.
You got me on that one.
There we go.
It's definitely a different mindset. But for me, like, trying to keep with the kind of the artisan mentality, and like that's how I prefer it. And so I'm going to keep it that way as long as I can.
You can tell with every beer that I've had here, there's clearly an artisan mentality behind it.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, kudos to that.
Thank you.
How is a beer like this reproducible? Is it reproducible?
I think the essence of it is reproducible. But that beer itself, it's not like brewing quintessential.
Right.
It's not like you're like, okay, you can have all this.
You can dial it in, kind of.
There's so many different variables, and every time you add one, it kind of changes. I mean, even barrel to barrel, it depends on where we're getting them from, what was in them previously, and even if it's 2 barrels that came from the same winery that had the same journey from point A to here, we know that they have different characteristics to them, for sure. And that's kind of that's part of the challenge, but it's also part of the beauty of it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
And something similar to like Long Shadow, which is what you do as well, right?
Yeah, so Long Shadow's behind. Those are the barrels behind us.
Yes.
This year's iteration. So for Long Shadow, I think last
For
year.
our listeners who might not know what Long Shadow is,
So Long Shadow is our bourbon barrel aged Baltic porter that we release once a year on the shortest day of the year, which would be December 21st.
Gotta wait a little bit.
And it's our big Christmas release,
Yep,
and
awesome.
one of those beers that has kind of, I think, helped with that little bit of a following that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But for us, I think last year, not this year's, but the previous year's version, which we should probably open a bottle of.
Absolutely.
We really kind of dialed in the recipe as far as how we were brewing it. We ended up brewing it over 2 days and doing 2 separate mashes and just pulling the first runnings as opposed to trying to cram it all into one. So that was able to let us get the ABV up a little higher, which I think kind of lends itself well to the beer being in the barrels a little longer. And then as far as the barrels themselves, last year we did a couple different barrels. I think we did 4 different barrels, right?
I believe that's correct. 4 different barrels. Yep.
I think last year was a Baker's, a Booker's, a Buffalo Trace, and a Willet.
Yep.
Wow.
And the Baker's was outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. It was like where we had the conversation. We're like, should we just release this barrel by itself?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the Booker's wasn't too far behind. And the Buffalo Trace, we actually ended up blending in. The Buffalo Trace barrel actually became shadow agnostic
Okay.
because we ended up having we had 2 barrels from Smoky Quartz that had maple syrup in them.
Ooh.
And we had agnostic, which was our Belgian double, and we had that aging in there, and we were really kind of unsure what to do, and they were smaller barrels. And we were a little short on beer, filling up all the barrels. So we're like, you know what, let's blend the maple syrup barrels into this Buffalo Trace, and then we'll top it up with Long Shadow and let that sit.
Jesus.
And so that became
Right.
that became shadow agnostic, and again, that's part of the it's not an off the cuff thing, but it's also like you have these different pieces, and you can kind of take them and say, okay, I like component A, I like component B, like what if we did a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And we already knew the 2 years previous, we had done Long Shadow in all the Buffalo Trace barrels, so we kind of knew what the profile was of the barrel. So we're like, okay, let's use that one for this because we already know what the profile is, and that way we can still evaluate the other ones.
Yeah. Give us a reasonable expectation of what we can get out of that
Yeah.
Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
Sort of an uncouth cuvee of those 2.
Yeah.
But
So
we're happy with how it came out.
When you're doing stuff like this, you're treating beer almost like wine in a certain... Is that fair to say?
I think to an extent, sure, you can, because it's the blending component and the barrel component. I mean, there are similarities to winemaking and brewing. There's also a lot of differences.
Of course, yeah.
But I think when you talk about like the cellar aspect of it and the final product, then yes, you can really kind of you can draw a lot more comparisons than if you're just saying, pulling a bottle of, Yellowtail and putting it next to a Bud Light.
Yeah.
Now, that'd be a hell of a blend.
That really
No.
would be, right?
Please don't do it. Someone else do it. You guys don't do it.
Yeah. So, and all that led to, just to finish up on the Long Shadow thing, like that led to our choosing barrels for this year's blend, where we actually decided, so we ended up going with 2 barrels of Baker's,
Nice.
and
He's looking to see what barrel we got.
What did we get?
I see Baker's.
2 Bakers.
And then
2 Bookers, right?
Oh, there was a Booker's and a Basil Hayden.
Oh yeah, Basil Hayden is the wild card. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that again, because we knew what we liked with the Bakers, so we're reasonably confident that we're going to have something similar. We kind of replicated the recipe from last year, and we'll see what happens.
That's
Cool.
the most exciting part. I really think that's cool. You get to see
Yeah.
what happens, and it's exciting.
It's like a surprise.
It's exciting for your patrons who have been coming for year after year, and who might have that one from 2 years back, and they can compare it and say, I like this one, which who cares? Whatever. Like, it's cool. It's cool. And that's as long as you keep it to yourself. I don't know.
Well, we do take it seriously. The fact that we know, like, of all our beers, that one probably has the most of a following to be
For
spoken
sure.
for. And, there are expectations. If someone's going to, come in and spend their hard-earned money on a bottle of beer, we want them to be reasonably confident. We want to be reasonably confident that we're laying the groundwork for that to be an excellent bottle of beer. We want the customer to be absolutely confident that's going to be an excellent beer.
Yeah.
And so I think that speaks to that base of knowledge we've been talking about, just building that up, having all that information where we don't know. It's hard to know, but we are reasonably confident.
Yeah.
Silvaticus, reasonably.
Yeah, that's the new slogan there, right there.
That's what it says in the shirts, right? No. So before, I'm always curious about it. Does traditional always mean better? We do have to go to our sponsors though first. So
I'll marinate on that.
Are you a solo artist, band, podcaster, or anyone else who needs recording services?
Well, we got a place for you where your vision can become a reality.
Welcome to Small Pond Studios, built by hand with heart and sweat equity by musicians for musicians.
Go to smallpondstudios.io to reach out to get more information. And make sure you let them know that Brute sent you. Hey, Sound Guy Ryan here. Didn't know if you heard, but we're a part of the Hopped Up Network. There you'll find other informative podcasts about beer. So go ahead, follow them on social media, and visit them on their website, hoppedupnetwork.com, to learn more about the people, beer, and breweries from around the country. And until next time, thanks for listening. Cheers.
all right, so we're back. Thank you, sponsors. You are amazing. We love you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, keeps the lights on for us. But we have our our ears to the ground, and we see breweries marketing. This is traditional. We've seen Notch doing the pitch line barrels, which is cool. I've had that beer, Pilsner, and it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. And then we see other breweries saying, this is traditionally brewed and whatever. And I mean, is traditional better? Is that always a better thing?
I mean, I think traditional is just a word. It's something to categorize what you're doing or put it into a place and time and context. It's
Set up
like
a story, kind of, in a sense.
exactly. I mean, I think it's like anything else. It's all about like your definition. That in this context, that brewer's definition of traditional might not be the same. It's because if you're talking traditional, how far back you going? I mean, not many of us. Like the pitch line thing is awesome. Like I love Notch and those guys do some amazing stuff. That's something like that's like traditional. Like that's you can put traditional on something like that.
Yeah.
Can you put traditional on like, we just like
an IPA?
Yeah, exactly. Like there's
like when will like milkshake IPAs become traditional, right? Like this is traditionally how we do it.
Is it
Yeah.
like 15 years later or has it become
or it's
something?
like 2 months because this is how we did it the last time. That's traditional.
Yeah, so it's all about, like everything else, it's all about the context. And some places exploit those things more than others, and some just are more, what they say they are. I mean, I think for us, like I don't. It's hard to define any one thing that we do or say we do exactly, European style beers. I think style is kind of encompasses it, but it's for us, it's like we do what we kind of our interpretation of traditional.
Yeah.
And things like, if you want to talk about like the hoppy lagers, like that's like a, it's kind of a collision of traditional with like a spin on it of what we are, because at the end of the day, we're just guys making beer that are, trying to emulate and drink the beer that we want to drink and emulate those beers that are the ones that I still think about and dream about, years ago. And the places that we drank them and who we drank them with, like those are the beers that like we want to continue to make, and we want to like have let people have that experience.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll have the experience here.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to go off of that, talking about styles and guidelines. what do you guys think about a style guideline? Right? I mean, when you brew a Pilsner, when you brew a Doppelbock, I mean, are you looking at the BJCP style guideline? Is that important to you? And like just the thoughts, because like there's so many breweries that are making a Doppelbock that maybe isn't really a Doppelbock or something. At what point do you not even put a style on it? Like, do you just call it this is our whatever,
I mean, a barrel-aged Oktoberfest is a pretty wild thing.
Right. Is that even an Oktoberfest anymore? Or do you call that something different?
I mean, I would say for us that tradition guides us, but it doesn't limit us either. You know what I mean? There's a reason that continental, Pilsners and traditional styles have been honed and perfected over hundreds of years, because there are pros to them. You know what I mean? There are reasons that people want to drink those beers time and time again. But for us, part of that is just taking what has been perfected by the generations that came before us and making it our own, adding our flavor to it, our spin to it. So like a barrel-aged Oktoberfest. Is it an Oktoberfest? I don't know, but it was an Oktoberfest and it is now barrel-aged. Therefore, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to what Jay said about, curating an experience that people enjoy here, I mean, what we do may become tradition, and, years down the line, who knows, maybe like you guys alluded to, hoppy lagers. That's something that is fairly new. It's something that Silvaticus has been doing since its inception, and we're really happy with our hoppy lagers. There are a couple that we do in our rotation, and a couple one-offs that we do, and we're always looking for drinkability in it. You know what I mean? It's not going to conform to typical, IPA, BJCP kind of standards. I mean, even with hoppy lager, that's such a nebulous term. I mean, you have the two components, hoppy lager.
Right.
There's a lot of ways you can go with that. And I feel like we have, to an extent, low ABV, high ABV, different hop styles, regions. It's all about curating the experience and producing a beer that is good in and of itself. And then classification is kind of secondary, I think.
So going along with it, like the experience, is that then maybe more important than being concerned about a style?
I think yes and no.
Okay.
It depends. I think I do think there's a place for style, because I think it's important, especially as we grow. We grow over like 10,000 breweries in the country, and like the consumer needs to have a reasonable expectation when something says, "Hey, this is a Doppelbock,"
Right.
Or this is this is a Kolsch, or whatever, or a Kolsch style ale, because Kolsch is something that really, exactly. But it doesn't stop anybody, because sometimes it's not the brewer. A lot of times it's not the brewer doing it. It's the marketing guy that's saying, okay, we're going to call this a Kolsch because we don't have one. And
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you can't see through it and it looks like a murky IPA. We're still going to call it a Kolsch, which is, it's
Misleading.
It is, but but at the end of the day, I mean, everybody's going to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
So I think for us, it's like more about like holding the line and like saying like standing behind what you say, and being able to look somebody in the eye and say, yeah, this is what we say it is.
Yeah.
We're not just doing something to sell more beer or to put it in a category that somebody wants to hear, or something that's trending. Like that's not what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, because you guys mentioned the style specifically, Doppelbock is something that we have made an attempt to brew to style.
Yeah.
And we did tweak our recipe, this year's recipe, from the recipe last year, because it was not quite to style. You know what I mean? So that's one of those things where, based on what it is important to us to, like Jay said, to have it be judged against others that are presented of the same style.
Right.
That is important. More so with the traditional styles. But right, if you're masquerading and saying that, a beer is a certain style and it just
Isn't.
that's one thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you find yourself frustrated with the current state of the industry at all?
Nah. I don't. It's funny, like you follow trends and you see what everybody's doing, but for me personally, like for a long time, even before I was, thinking about opening this place, I always knew what I wanted to do, and just kind of stick to my guns and stay with it, and that's where we're at and where we keep going. Like we were saying, like listening to when we talked to you guys 3 years ago, not much has changed since the last time, and I'm kind of proud of that, because we haven't had to change direction or do what we said we weren't going to do. We're still doing exactly what we said we were going to do when we came here, and that's going to continue.
Yeah.
So let everybody else do what they want to do.
Cool.
I'm
Yeah.
making my money.
Yeah. Seems to be working. Exactly.
The only thing for me that I had in my notes was that you guys weren't in the immediate plans was distribution, which you're still not doing, but the
Canning,
16-ounce
Yeah.
format for cans. Was that just a necessity of COVID, or was that just
Yes,
the time
yes
to
and no.
happen? Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things that we were kind of holding in our pocket to see what was going. I mean, we were doing the crowlers for a long time, and that was working for us because it was easy. It worked with our space and kind of the confinements and the restrictions that we have, what we're working out of. And we were selling most of the beer on premise anyway, so
Yeah.
it was just, the crowlers were just kind of it's just an easy option for us to do, and the beer was still fresh, and we were kind of able to ensure the quality of it. So moving to the 16-ounce cans has been pretty much everything we expected. It's basically we can't keep up with it anymore.
Good problem?
But it was
Yeah.
it was something that we were looking at. So, but COVID kind of pushed it into the forefront. You guys know, like sitting up in the tap room, like we're really restricted on space. So everything
sure,
is
yeah.
everything for as far as brewing equipment is kind of modular, like stuff that we can move down. And like you say, like the cans are in the basement here, but there's
Right.
a full pallet of cans sitting down here already cased. Well, how do you think it got down here?
Manual.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday Dylan spent
I
like
was going to say
3.5 hours. moving
Dylan.
cans.
Dylan is how I got down
That's
here.
why you guys are jacked. Yeah.
So it's, everything's modular. So everything has to be, as we, kind of try to maximize the space, we're still limited by the equipment that we can have. So like our canning, it's kind of a canning bottling hybrid that it's, the machine is built for bottling really, but
You
it's,
guys own that. You don't have someone coming on site.
no, we don't.
Nice.
The
Nice.
margins on that stuff don't make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
I know.
We've heard.
Just so you guys know, every single can and bottle that you buy has been handled by both Jay and myself. Lovingly.
Wonderful.
Probably
So,
3
Lovingly.
times.
Yeah,
Yes.
at least. So I mean, it's kind of a nice synthesis of like we literally take it from raw product to the finished product,
Yeah.
like every step of the way.
That is really cool.
It's our
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Which I mean was super cool the first couple times we did it, and then after a couple canning runs, it was
Yeah,
like,
not so much.
man, I really wish somebody else could schlep these. Huh?
I don't know if they
The love
mentioned their,
story's over.
I don't know if they mentioned, but at this time of the podcast, they are hiring, right?
Hey, does this sound amazing?
Yeah.
Right. Come join us.
Are we selling it well?
yeah. This is the only reason we did that. No, I'm just
Yeah.
So what's next for you? We have to ask. I mean, you just keep on what you're doing, or any plans for expansion?
Yeah, I mean, right now, like in the near future, we're just holding the line. Like we're expecting, as we kind of come through everything, that it's going to get real busy this summer. Vaccine rolls out,
Definitely.
everybody's kind of hankering. We've got some additional seating outside. We're just focused on getting back on track. And COVID was like it was for everybody. It was different sets of challenges depending on who you are, and obviously we definitely fall into that, but we're able to kind of roll through, and we're just looking to kind of get our footing again and working on a couple different things to see what that would become. And we'll see where right now, like we thought of originally like doing like an event space down here, and it didn't work out because just handicap accessibility for
Right.
one. There's a lot of different things. Also, we store a bunch of
Barrels
Stuff.
and things down here.
You don't want
Right.
rowdy people looking at it. Yeah.
well, but it's the space, even the space itself. Like when we took over this space, we didn't originally have this space when we first moved in, but we took it over pretty soon afterwards. And I would just come down here and sit here and just picture what we could do in the space because of the exposed beams and
It's such a
being on the
beautiful
river,
space.
and it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. I have to say the whole brewery is.
Oh, the whole brewery is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps Dylan coming back to work every day.
Sure does.
So do you still live across the river?
I do not.
Oh, that's a bummer.
damn
I
it.
moved to town over, so now I have to have a whole 15-minute commute.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's such a
awful.
bummer. I mean, I would say too, and yeah, right. Yeah, wine. I would say too, in regard to COVID, it's one of those things where we were kind of forced into doing things a different way, which is not a path I ever would have chosen, but I think it's provided us a lot to work with in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sort of a trial by fire where we had to adapt, and I think it's going to make us better in the long run. But I mean, for me, the thing I'm looking forward to get back to is like getting back to normal service here.
Yeah.
Because I think Yeah, right. Well, yeah, big
Bunny
quotation
ears,
marks. Yeah, for
yes.
sure.
I just want your Day of the Dead party this year, like so badly.
We'll see. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
yeah.
But I think one of the things that really, really makes us a unique brewery is sort of an extension of this curated experience is the hospitality.
Yeah.
For sure.
I want to shout out our staff. We have, I know we have the most knowledgeable and most attentive
Yeah.
staff of any brewery I've been to in the area, for sure.
We can all
sure.
definitely.
I would
second that.
agree with that.
I was
Yeah.
going to ask, is that a huge part of being the brewers? I mean,
Do you educate
that
them?
knowledge
Yeah.
transfer to the
Staff.
front of house staff
For sure. And yeah, our staff is amazing, from Michelle and Jen and
Yeah,
Isaiah
do
and
an awesome
all those
job.
guys. But I think a big part of it is because not only do we focus on keeping those guys in the loop, the fact that the brewery's in the tap room.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
we're
can't miss it.
we see those guys every day, so like they know what's going on. We make sure they're like, hey, what you guys brew today? What's going on? What's in the tank? What's this? Hey, something new is coming out. I mean, everybody we work as one kind of big like I don't know how you say it. Like, I don't want to say
One
a
big
blob.
happy
Cohesive
family.
unit.
Yeah, one cohesive unit.
Yeah.
I'm just
Sure.
going to say, you have a rad as fuck staff, and they're humble people, and it never feels like it's pretentious here. My girlfriend
Oh, no.
doesn't drink beer.
Yeah.
Spent 20 minutes just talking about like, oh yeah, I don't drink that, but I'll try this, whatever. And it was
Yeah.
good experience. I mean,
my goal for those guys, the staff, is to, when anytime a customer asks them a question, that they feel comfortable answering it. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a huge thing. Is
huge. Yeah.
Definitely.
And the other thing too is we have a track record of hiring people who are willing and able to learn. Like Jay mentioned, Michelle, she does a lot of the hectic wrangling of scheduling events, and
Yeah.
she sets us all up to perform the best we possibly can. And Jen, our lead bartender, she has a background in fine dining, and I think that really shows in the hospitality that we bring to the table. No pun intended. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
But our staff is phenomenal. I think that those guys, you can throw anything at them and they'll roll with it. I mean, through COVID and everything, and independent of that, they just really have a passion for providing hospitality, which I think really is unique in the brewery space. I think that's one of the things that I'm confident to say we do better than really anybody else around.
Agreed. And
Definitely.
I have to say, your choice of food trucks, the people that you have on site, it's not just willy-nilly who can
Everything
come.
shows.
It seems like that. I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like there's a lot of thought and detail that goes into it. The menu that you guys serve here, the pretzels are phenomenal. The cheese
Yeah.
that you can get here.
Thanks. Yeah, and that's all Michelle.
Yeah.
Like, that's her. Like, you don't always see her
she's
here,
not
but
just
she's
okay. She's awesome.
she's incredible.
yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Above and beyond.
We wouldn't be we would not be sitting here without Michelle.
That's
and
true.
she's the backbone. She does all those things where it's like
Behind the scenes.
exactly, and all the advertising and the marketing
Yeah.
and the relationships, and that lets Dylan and I just sit here and drink beer and talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
We call it like
Thank
the
you.
not sexy
Love
side
you.
of brewing.
Yes,
It's like,
yes.
it's the stuff that people don't realize. I mean, it really, you guys are making the product that ultimately keeps the doors open, but the front face of your brewery is your front of house staff and
It's
how
not
they're
you
presenting.
guys.
Yeah.
No, those
Thank goodness.
those guys are the rock stars. We're just providing the ammunition so they can slay it.
Yeah.
Right.
And they are.
Thanks.
That was well done.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate everything that you guys are doing here. I think the Amesbury community is up and coming. I remember
For sure.
coming here in high school and not enjoying saying I was in a band from Amesbury, and now I'd be like, "Oh, cool."
You could start that band again and be like the coolest
No, I
cats
don't
around.
think I want to play Sweet Home
Oh.
Alabama anymore.
Okay.
But I mean, the restaurant scene here, the food scene, the everything. It's up and coming.
It's a
and
place to be.
I think you have helped the scene grow for sure.
Thanks. We hope so, and we're here first and foremost for Amesbury. That's what we were always intended to be, a community space, somewhere where people can come and gather and imbibe and enjoy themselves and do what they have to do. And I can say confidently in 3.5 years, that's what we've become. And we're proud of that for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for doing this today.
Thank you
Yeah, this
guys.
was a great second episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learned a
Thanks for
lot.
coming down.
Anytime.
the most-
Anytime.
Yeah, seriously. The most important part is we want people to come here safely and, abide by any rules that you have for social distancing. But how can people get to your brewery? What's the address and what are your hours of operations currently?
So we're at 9 Water Street in downtown Amesbury, Massachusetts. Good way to spot us is the Smokestack.
Yep.
That's our building. We're open Monday to Sunday. or Sunday, and
Wednesday
not
to
Monday,
Sunday.
Tuesday.
Wednesday to Sunday.
So yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 to 9. Friday, 3. Actually, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 to 9.
Yeah.
Saturday, 12 to 9. Sunday, 12 to 6.
And
currently.
if those hours change,
I
we
was
will
like,
post that on our Doobly
check their
Doobly.
website, their
Yeah.
social media, I'm sure.
Because you extend the hours in the summer, correct?
Yeah, I think right now we'll probably only be extending on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's become, we've noticed that definitely some pattern changes with everything going on, and people
Definitely.
seem to be coming in a little earlier, not staying as late, which is fine by me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Generally, the nicer it is, the more open we'll be.
Totally.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I have to just say, just from coming to this is the brewery that's probably my favorite, closest one to me. You know, this is one of those experiences where you can come here and talk with the people in front of you. You're not
You can have a
distracted.
conversation.
Yeah.
What?
You're not distracted by television. You're not distracted by
Loud music.
50 different options on the menu to
Right.
get. You know,
Right.
it's really just, I think, the intention of what a brewery, in my opinion, should be. You
Yeah.
go there,
You enjoy the
converse
beer.
with
You
people,
enjoy the company.
and you guys are doing a great job of doing whatever you're doing. I mean, just continue to do it because
Keep on
Keep
keeping
on
on.
keeping
no,
on.
seriously.
Exactly. Yes.
it's-
Don't fuck up.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Erica, you got the last question?
Yeah. As we always end our episodes, what are you most proud of?
For me, being a part of the community, honestly,
Cool.
seeing the bonds between the people that have met here, know each other from outside of here and come here, the fact that people feel so comfortable here, seeing the outpouring of support at the beginning of COVID from our regulars and throughout, it really makes you feel valuable.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? In my parents' generation, drinking was something that was done in, dingy bars, in low light. And now it's like we see families with kids that spend the afternoon having a couple beers and communing with your fellow people. And there's a reason we have picnic tables in the beer garden. I mean, obviously, independent of COVID, the goal is for you to meet the person next to you.
Meet your neighbor.
Exactly. And I think what we see here is some of the best of Amesbury and the larger community is I'm just really honored to facilitate that for the people.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most proud of.
I would say I'm most proud of our staff. I mean, they're the ones, like we were just saying, they make it happen. And I'm just proud of kind of where each and every one of them have kind of come from where we started, and not all of them came from a beer background. And, where we're going with them, because we're trying to create a culture, and they're all in on it. And that's what I love, and I'm proud of that. And this guy,
Aww.
Yeah.
because he does all the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously. And he just had a kid. Hi, Rowan.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Yeah. Can you see the bags under my ass?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Life, man.
Seriously.
Comes
Yeah.
at you fast.
Right. Well, awesome. Until the next time
Yeah,
in
I mean,
3
I
years.
I see Ryan eyeballing barrels, so we got to keep him away from the barrels. So.
Yeah, we got to drag them away for sure.
We got some bottles from
Yeah.
the barrels.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
in.
So thank you again for doing this, and it's always cool when we can just sit down and chat with you. And
Absolutely. Anytime.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cheers, guys. Nice
Until
to chat
next
with you.
time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. If you've made it this far, you know that this is our favorite portion of the podcast.
It's the outro.
That's right. Well, if you made it this far, you definitely enjoyed the episode with Brewery Silvaticus, so make sure you make your way out there. It's quite a nice drive, and there's a lot of great breweries around there.
Yeah.
And I know that they have killer food trucks there, so it's like a place that you can get good beer, good food, and honestly, it's probably one of the best looking breweries on the North Shore.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you didn't get a ringing endorsement from that, I don't know how else you would. But you want to know how you can help us out, Erica? How can people help us out?
Patreon?
That's right. So if you want to go to patreon.com/breweries podcast, throw us support us, whatever
Yeah,
it
buy
is.
us a beer. There's multiple different options in there. Get some swag.
That's
some
right.
Sweet swag.
And we're finally catching up to some of that stuff. I know that some of our patrons had not received some stuff, but we are slowly making our way.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
It's hard,
We're not the fastest Patreoners,
but we're not the worst.
We're not the worst.
That's right. Well, next week we have a surprise episode.
Stay tuned.
And continue to support Mass Beer. Or if you are beyond the Massachusetts area, continue to support your local area.
Exactly.
And celebrate Earth Week. Think twice.
Month. Earth Year.
Earth Life. Maybe get the growler instead of the can.
Exactly.
And until next week.
Cheers.
Cheers. I hope Sound Guy Ryan's back. Bye.